G'day everyone, I'm Dave from Dynobike and I'd like to talk to you today about auto-tune kits and O2 sensors. But before I do that, a little bit about my history. I did an apprenticeship in the late 1970s, early 80s in New Zealand. I qualified as a motorcycle engineer, and from there I ran a multi-franchise workshop for 2 or 3 years. And then I got a bit bored with all of that, so I went looking in England and Europe for race teams to work with, and I worked with Carl Fogarty and Jamie Woodham at Honda UK before moving on to Honda Canada, where I worked for the race team over there. Came back to Australia and set up Dynobike, which has been running ever since. Spent a fair bit of time with Cameron Donald in the early days. He's now Isle of Man TT champion, and we've also been across to the Salt Lakes and managed to get 4 or 5 land speed records at the time. The most significant one that we achieved was the first Australian bike to exceed 200 miles an hour without any fairings on, so we were pretty happy with that. After that I came back to good old Melbourne in 1992 it was, started up Dynobike and have been running that ever since quite successfully. In the modern era has been pretty challenging for us. We've had to sort of relearn a lot of stuff with all the electronics and everything that is in motorcycles these days. And we've studied that pretty hard and put that to use specifically for dyno tuning and remapping of engine management systems and ECUs. Okay, so enough about my history, on to auto tune kits and more importantly O2 sensors. So I think most of you know what an auto tune kit looks like when you purchase one. This is the Dyno Jet one. It comes with this little box here which records the information, and of course your oxygen sensor, which we call this a wideband oxygen sensor. And it's called a wideband oxygen sensor because this will read AFR from 10 to 1 up to about 18 to 1 parts of air fuel. It's also very fast. You'll get 10 to 12 samples per second out of this bad boy, as opposed to, I'll just put this down here, as opposed to that one there, which is a typical OEM sensor. Don't be fooled into thinking that you can tune your motorcycle with that. You can't. It's there for a completely different purpose. So if you've got one of those and you're trying to tune with it, forget about it. It's never going to work. So back to my wideband O2 sensor. These are very, very accurate. It's surprising just how consistently accurate they are. We could test 2 of these. This is a Bosch O2 sensor. We could test 2 of them side by side, and they should read, like mirror each other really. They should be identical to each other in terms of the reading right throughout the rev range. And if they're not, one of them's not measuring right, or maybe both of them are out. The other thing to be aware of with these is they are very sensitive to damage or chemicals, or even if you're using a gasket cement that is not O2 sensor safe, and they will say on there if they're O2 sensor safe. For example, if you put gasket sealant around an inlet manifold and there's a little bit of residual gasket cement there, it will go through the engine and it will hit that O2 sensor, and as soon as it hits it, that's it, that O2 sensor is gone. You might as well throw it away, it's buggered. So be careful of that one, and any other contaminants that might come close to it. Just remember that this bad boy might not like it and you will kill it, or it will lose its accuracy. So these are 2 good points to remember about those. Okay, so we've talked about which O2 sensor to use, which is the wideband O2 sensor for the purposes of tuning, and also how sensitive it is. We've got to be careful with this thing because it doesn't like contaminants or other things coming into contact with it. So the next thing, and this is probably the most critical thing about O2 sensors, is where to put it within the exhaust. Now this particular example here, this motorcycle has an aftermarket exhaust on it, and the manufacturer of the exhaust has been kind enough to weld in an O2 sensor bung for us, and he's put it in a very convenient location. So for you and I, it's really easy just to screw this thing in there, and in 5 seconds we can plug it in and away we go, we're live, it's operational. Problem is, that's not the right location for it. It's unfortunate, but it's simply not the right place to put it. The other thing of note with this particular bike is it has a bung for the original manufacturer's O2 sensor. This is the narrowband sensor, which is designed for a standard exhaust system that has a catalytic converter on it. It's heavily baffled, completely different system. That sensor there will be causing more trouble than not. So we need to remove that sensor, disable it somehow, and find a suitable location for a wideband sensor. Lastly but not least, and I see this from professionals in the trade, they hang a piece of pipe out the back of the exhaust and they screw the O2 sensor into that pipe, so it's effectively sitting there. That's probably the worst place to put the O2 sensor. If you're looking for good, reliable, accurate mixture readings, you're never going to get it if it's sitting there. Right, so we know where not to put the O2 sensor. So I guess you're thinking, well, where are we supposed to put this damn thing then? The best place for this O2 sensor is as close to the cylinder head as you can get it, within reason. Within about 100 millimetres of where it exits the cylinder head is, or where the exhaust exits the cylinder head, tongue twister there, is probably the best place for it. You can't always get that close, but it's just as close as you can get to the cylinder head is perfect. So in this case, with this one, we could put that in there between those two hoses. Okay, it would be okay down in there. We definitely don't want it down here because this is getting too close to the collector where there's way too much turbulence in there. So that's not going to be much good. We could go, if you only want to do one cylinder, you could maybe bang it in through there and put it in the front cylinder. These things, auto tune kits, have lots of wiring on it, so you could hook that up there. You'll get to it. You'll get that, no problem at all. The problem is that the good old exhaust guy, he's put his bung there. We want another bung now, so we'll have to get another one of these bungs and get someone or yourself to drill a hole there and weld it into place there. So that really is your biggest problem, which if you want to get these things tuned right, you've just got to suck it up and go with it. Get someone to do it. Once you've done it, you can forget about it. It's all done. So that's best place for it there on any one of those cylinders. I'm just looking through here. You could probably go up in there, but there's lots of places here where you could put that sensor. That's where it's got to go. Remember one thing, accuracy is king. If you haven't got accuracy, then all the readings that your auto tune kit stores and uses to adjust the mixtures are absolutely useless to you. Accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. Okay, so here we are in the dyno room. Just want to show you what we use. We have a mounting boss which we screw our wideband O2 sensor into on the dyno. It's just because it's a lot faster for us and it's just a lot more efficient in the dyno room when we're getting bikes on and off the dyno all day long. And the other thing that I want to mention to you is that you need to get your bike dyno tuned before you go down the road of fitting and running the auto tune kit. Why is that? Because the auto tune kit will not work correctly if you haven't got a really good base tune that's been done on a dyno in the first place. Once you've got your base tune, then you can install your auto tune kit, run it out in the field, and it will keep the tune spot on the money all day long. So just remember, it's not a standalone tuning kit. It's designed to keep the bike in tune. Thanks for watching. I'm Dave from Dynobike. See you on the next video.